White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox Podcast. My name is Eskridge. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, James Fox. And tonight we have a special guest from MLB Pipeline, MLB.com, Mr. Jim Callis. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well. So you finally get through your gauntlet of the draft here in the last week, couple weeks here. I'm sure you're probably still compiling information, but what was your feeling on the new draft format?
Oh, you mean the 2 days versus the 3 days?
Yeah.
It didn't really, I think, make much of a difference necessarily. I haven't done any analysis to see if we have more overslot guys in the fourth round instead of the third round because we went an extra round on day one. It makes for a really long day two, but like in terms of how we handled the broadcast, it was the same. We didn't I joke, like we could talk about some of the players that got drafted in rounds 11 through 20, but having to comment on every player would probably kill us. So I'm glad we didn't have to do that. But like in the past where we would do all the day two picks, which were 3 through 10, and we'd sit there, be on the air for however many hours. And then we kind of sit around to fill if there's any technical difficulties and it causes a pause in rounds 11 through 20. All that just got crammed into one day. So it was fine. I'm not sure why they switched it, but it didn't really affect me one way or the other. I don't feel like.
Yeah, I think it kind of affected just our mental space before the whole thing started more than it actually affected the runtime of how things actually went down.
Yeah, it was different for the teams, because you don't have, instead of having 2 nights where you had breaks, I mean, you could kind of recalibrate and figure out how much money you had and who might take it and did asking prices change. And you always would see in the past, like on day 3, 11 through rounds 11 through 20, somebody who maybe was asking for more money and then realized, oh, I didn't get picked. I'll lower my asking price. And those guys would go in rounds 11 through 12. You had a little bit of it, but they had basically an hour to figure that out as opposed to a whole evening.
Yeah, it didn't stop the Brewers, Jim.
Well, they do that every year.
I know, that's what I mean. It didn't matter for them.
Yeah, their attitude, like with the Brewers, I think they have the most fascinating draft every year. Essentially, they take several high school guys in rounds 11 through 20 and figure they save up like $1.5 million or $2 million, depending on the year. And it's not like they know who's getting the money. It's like, okay, we have this money, and we'll try different combinations and see, like prioritize and like let's say the guy who wants the most money, if we can't meet with him, then maybe we sign 2 guys. But yeah, I don't think anybody really did the draft any differently. The Angels still gave almost $1 million to a high school pitcher after the 10th round, like they have in the last 3 or 4 years. Like, I don't think anybody really changed their approach because it was crammed into 2 days rather than 3.
Yeah, it looks interesting when like you don't sign your 13th rounder, but then you sign your 18th and 20th. The Brewers it's kind of like whoever takes it at that point. The Pirates too, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, well, the Brewers, I mean, I know they offered, I think, 7 figures. I think Cooper Underwood could have signed for 7 figures and wound up choosing to go to Georgia Tech, and there might have been another one of their high schoolers who did too. So, I mean, they legitimately tried to. I think at different times tried to sign almost all those guys in rounds 11 through 20. They weren't going to be able to get all of them, but they made runs at them in kind of a pecking order, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is off script here, but how surprised were you that the Angels took Bonemer?
I was surprised. Like he's not an illegitimate pick at 2. I mean, coming into the year, like he was a number candidate to go 1-1, and he was a candidate to be the best pitcher, or the first pitcher taken in the draft. And he got off to a slow start, and we found out. I think we all found out later. Like his mom died. Like I mean, he had a very rough spring having to deal with that, but he finished really strong. I mean, his last 6 starts were very good. So I feel like he had more. I think we had him ranked 18th on our list, and he probably had more positive momentum going than that ranking, if that makes sense. I mean, we've talked about, the rankings aren't set in stone. Like that whole 11 to 20 group is kind of what order you want to put them in. So anyway, I think he had more momentum than we realized. But no, I was really surprised. It was funny because I was during the first round of the draft. I was sitting with Melanie Newman and Carlos from the Orioles, Carlos Collazo from Baseball America, and Lance Brozdowski from Marquee, and we do Cubs minor league show on Marquee like a bunch. And somebody texted Lance like literally right before the draft started that Bremner was going to go in the top couple picks, and it was like, whoa, like, so it wasn't undeserving. I just was surprised that they didn't take Cade Anderson. Now, if you look at what the Angels did, they gave Bremner, I think they literally paid him the maximum cut they could do because he took a physical. He got 75% of the slot, and then they used that money to go get Johnny Slowinski in the 3rd round and go over slot for CJ Gray in the 5th round. So, and Talon Haley, for $900,000, and Robert Mitchell. Actually, they got 4 high school pitchers that they spent. I'm doing the math in my head here, about $6.5 million on. So their strategy was to save as much money as possible with that pick and then spend it on other guys. So in retrospect, you could see how it played out, but at the time I wasn't expecting. I just assumed if Cade Anderson didn't go 1, then he was going to go 2. I was far less surprised that Eli Willits went 1 because we knew he was one of 3 candidates. We'd start to hear the Nationals maybe weren't going to take a Bourse guy. We're going to try to save as much money as they could. So that one wasn't surprising, but I just thought it was, we'd heard all kinds of names for the Angels, and we didn't hear Bremner. Although I did say, not on the air, but before the draft started, how the Angels were wide open. I told the guys at MLB Network, I didn't mean this with disrespect, but I said literally the Angels could take any one of the top 20 players on our 250, and it wouldn't surprise me because they do things differently than other teams, and they took the 18th guy.
Fair enough. Speaking of strategies, the White Sox spent pretty much almost exactly their 5% overage, took 11 hitters and 9 pitchers. What did you think of the White Sox draft strategy?
Yeah, well, one, I think, again, it's easy for me to say because it's not my money, but you should always spend 5% of your pool. I think they left $10,400 something on the table, which is fine. But you should maximize your spending power. The draft is by far the most cost-effective way to get talent, and you lock it up. You control guys for 6 years in the minors, 6 years in the majors. So you should 100% do that all the time. It's crazy to me that 20 teams did and 10 teams didn't. And the 10 teams get to divide up the tax penalty from the other 20 teams. So they're going to get I don't know, $1 million. I'd rather, for the White Sox case, they had a $12.1 million pool. So I gave them an extra $600,000 to play with. And they used it, which is smart. But no, I mean, I think the White Sox, as we've seen, they aren't afraid to take high school players high. And they did that with their first 2 picks. They usually, and Layden Hodge, 3 of their first 4, and then they got the 3 highest bonuses in their draft. They aren't afraid. They kind of have a diverse approach. We all kind of knew they were going to take an area code games guy, right? They have to do that. And I want to say, James, I think it was you who reached out to me, and I was like, well, I don't know that Fauski's going to get to him because there was a lot of buzz at him going in the sandwich round. And then he did, but I don't know, it just seemed kind of like typical strategy for the White Sox under Mike Shirley. Did you guys feel the same way? Did anything surprise you about the way things unfolded?
No, not really, because I thought they wanted hitters. Last year, I told everybody that would listen, last year they were taking a bat and they took Hagen Smith, right? So I was kind of like, okay, we'll see. But just listening to Shirley after the draft, he kind of said that they wanted to prioritize hitters. They didn't like the college pitching class, and they knew that if they were prioritizing hitters, they couldn't afford high school pitching. So it just kind of, played out the way that it did. The thing I thought was interesting with Fauski, Jim, I knew that they'd go to $3 million-ish. So you basically had to get him past pick 32 at that point. Once he got past 32, 33, I thought it was possible.
Well, couldn't somebody else have paid him over slot
sure.
too?
Yeah, sure. I just didn't know he was going to get more than that, basically.
I honestly thought Detroit was going to take him. That was a team I'd heard a lot. And then they kind of went off the board and took the Oliveto kid. But it was funny. I mentioned the area code games connection because, in the last few drafts, they've gotten Noah Schultz, George Wolkow, Caleb Bonemer, and even Blake Larson too with IMG. Yeah. All over slot. Yeah, I think they were all over slot. Oh, but all high profile picks. And they came and did it again with Jaden Fauski. I don't think there was a guy they could have taken in the first round, right? There wasn't a legitimate first round pick who would have been on the area code.
They did not have a guy. No.
Yeah.
No. But even dating back to 2020, they took Addison Coffey. There's always one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you
Yeah, I
think?
thought that was pretty funny.
And I know we kind of talked about, JoJo Parker and Carlson, and they say Carlson was their top choice because that's who they took. Whatever. What do you think about just like Billy Carlson and his upside? And then do you think he slides onto you guys' top 100 once you guys redo it?
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't. We're just starting to work on that, and I haven't tried to place guys yet. Yeah, it's like I would have been very curious to see what would have happened if JoJo Parker and Billy Carlson were both on the board. Um, again, teams will want to don't want to disrespect the guys they take, and maybe Billy Carlson was ahead of him. I'm not convinced that they wouldn't have taken JoJo Parker ahead of Billy Carlson. I'm looking here. I lined up the short. I put guys in order by position. Billy might make the list. Like it's an interesting discussion, him versus Caleb Bonemer. Like you probably have to give Billy the nod, as well as Caleb's played. Like he was drafted recently enough that I kind of look at like what guys' stock was when they were drafted, and Billy was highly regarded. Billy's fascinating because on one hand, you have scouts who will say he's like multiple scouts told us the best high school defensive shortstop they've ever seen. Like these are guys who've scouted for decades. That's pretty good. Like he's probably a 70 defender short. I think he's got 20 homer power. He's a power over hit guy. The crazy thing is, and here like it gets a little dicey. Like it worries me when you're taking a guy anywhere in the first round and you're like, we got to make some changes when he gets in the pro ball. And you hear from everybody like scouts don't like the swing, they don't like the setup, but everybody said it's an easy fix. Like there's these 2 or 3 things, and maybe it will be an easy fix. But that's the caveat that comes with Billy Carlson is, and again, he's very talented. He went about in the draft where he should have gone. It wasn't like they overdrafted him, but it worries me just a little bit of when you hear like, oh, we got to change the swing. Like then I'm like, but he went 10th overall. That's why for me, I personally would have taken JoJo Parker because I think JoJo Parker might have been the best all around combination hit, power, swing decisions bat in the high school ranks. Like now he's not anywhere near the defender Billy is. Like Billy's probably 70 defender on the 20-80 scale, and JoJo's probably 50, who's going to wind up moving to third because he's going to get physical. It's just a different type of player. And ultimately the decision was out of the White Sox hands because JoJo Parker didn't get to them.
What can you tell us about Landon Hodge?
Yeah, he's interesting. So, 4th round pick, took a catcher, and what I like about him, like everybody always talks about, oh, it's hard to invest in high school catchers. It's a risky profile. I think it's a risky profile if you don't believe in the guy's bat. If you're taking a defensive-minded guy and you're like, I'm not sure if he's going to hit, those guys usually don't hit. But Landon can hit. He's got a good swing. He's got gap power. He's got a projectable frame, so I think there's going to be more power. He's a really good athlete for a catcher. He needs some work behind the plate, but I mean, unless you're like Austin Hedges, almost every high school catcher needs work behind the plate. So I like that pick. I thought that was a sneaky, interesting pick in round 4.
So then just going back a little bit, I mean, obviously we mentioned Foskey because he's local. Just what were you guys, I know where you had ranked. Do you think that is just like appropriate in that spot, the value that they got him for, and then just kind of like what you think about the player?
Yeah, because again, I mean, we had him ranked 57th. He went 44th. He got paid more like he was in the 35, around the 35th pick. Prop of guys who are ranked, say, 30 to 60, it's all the same. Different teams are going to like different guys more. So, it's pretty much a similar thing. And I think he had one of the best left-handed swings in the high school ranks. He's really athletic. I haven't talked to Mike Shirley yet, and I haven't seen anything. Like, I don't know if they've broached getting him to try to catch because a lot of guys want him to catch. Now, he runs well. I think there's going to be power as he gets stronger because the hitting ability is there. And maybe you just like the bat's so good, and I could buy this. You just want the bat to be as good as it is, and he has a chance to play center field. I mean, he's not a bad athlete at all, so it's not like he's not going to catch. They're going to put him at. He's not Kyle Schwarber. Where if he's not catching, like it's first base or left field, like he's a pretty good athlete. So my guess is maybe they aren't. But no, he went about in the range we were hearing he would go. And it's a really good, he's like, the bat, like obviously if you don't hit, you don't play. And you feel like Fauski's going to hit because I think he had one of the best bats in the high school ranks.
Yeah, on the media call, Shirley didn't rule it out, but he said that they were sending him out as a center fielder, obviously. So
yeah, and that almost sounds like catching would happen if he didn't hit as much. Like basically, they need to create more value, but they're betting on the bat. I like that pick a lot. Like I said, it kind of made me chuckle. I don't know if I chuckled on the air. I was like, man, they took another area code games guy. It's just like without fail.
Yeah, well, I knew they really liked Sean Gamble too, but I didn't think there was any chance he was going to get to him. So yeah, it was interesting. You kind of talked about earlier the fourth round thing, like whether you could look back and see like if it was any different. So in the conference, he kind of talked about how they were talking to prep guys in the third, and they took Kyle Lodis just because I think they wanted him too and figured they couldn't wait any longer. He got 925K. So like financially, you could basically flip those two picks. What do you think about Kyle Lodis and Kobe Shelton?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think part of the draft, like you said, those guys got pretty much the same bonus, is no one guys are going to go. And Lodis went almost exactly where we had him ranked. I mean, super interesting guy, offensive-minded, middle infielder. His cousin, Alex, won the Dick Hauser Award, and I still can't remember who drafted who. If it wasn't one of my 10 teams, I do top 34. Yeah, Alex went where around the 40s.
Atlanta. He went to Atlanta
Braves.
Yeah. So anyway, Kyle, who played at Georgia Tech, they're cousins. They both wound up starting at smaller schools. He was at a Division II school in Augusta for a couple of years. Transferred to Georgia Tech, put up really good numbers. He actually hits the ball pretty hard for a guy who's not 6'3", 220. There's good exit velos. Did struggle with wood bats and the capes. There's, is it 15 homer power? Is it more than that? It's good bat to ball, high baseball IQ, solid speed, kind of an average shortstop. We'll see if he sticks at short. Like, I mean, if all these guys pan out like they're supposed to, he's not going to be the shortstop because Billy Carlson 100% will be the shortstop. But he's kind of projects as an average shortstop. And most times you want a better than average shortstop defensively at the big league level. So I think you're looking at more of a probably offensive second baseman if you're projecting them out in the long term. And Colby Shelton, kind of the same thing. Like, I know they announced him as a shortstop. He's not like, he's a below average runner. Like, he has good hands, but I don't see any way that guy's really a shortstop long term. He's probably more of an offensive second baseman. He has more power than Lodis, I think, more raw power. I think Lodis is a better hitter and has better quickness, better defensive tools, which is why Lodis went in the third round and Shelton went in the sixth round. But, I mean, Colby's hit, I think, what was it, close to 60 home runs in 3 years of college, right?
Yeah.
So, and he played like I went to Georgia, so I'm a big SEC guy. It's the best conference in the country. So he proved himself at the highest level of college baseball. So, like, I think that's a pretty good value. I mean, again, he went about where he should have gone in the draft, but like that's a good place to take Colby Shelton, like offensive second baseman who might be a 20 homer guy.
So the White Sox waited until round 5 to take a pitcher, which for me and James is probably just what we ordered. They picked Gabe Davis, who's just an imposing, huge guy with high velocity, but he didn't pitch a whole lot. What are your thoughts on that pick?
That's a lottery ticket, but like it's a high upside play in round 5. I mean, he's 6'9". When he's on, he touches 100 miles an hour. The fastball can get a little straight, so he's going to need to add some life and shape to it. His slider hits 92. His cutter hits the mid 90s. It's all about whether he throws enough strikes and can stay healthy. He always seems to be a little nicked up. Like, I know he missed fall practice. He somehow broke his collarbone fishing was the story. It was literally a fishy story, pun intended. But and he had, he missed a month this spring with shoulder issues. But again, like that was a guy coming into the year we thought could have been a top 2-round pick. And yeah, I mean, there's a reason he lasted till the 5th round, and it wasn't like he was a huge overslot signing. It's because he doesn't have a history of throwing strikes. He has a history of being nicked up. But like, I'll take that arm in the 5th round every time.
So Rylan Galvin was ranked for you guys. Is he their most interesting late round guy? Are there any other late sleepers that you liked in the White Sox draft?
Yeah, he probably is. I mean, he's probably more of a backup, but like the college catching crop, frankly, was terrible this year. It really, really was terrible. And you had, after you got past the first couple of guys, you either had offensive guys who you weren't really sure they could catch, or you had catchers who you really didn't believe could hit. And he could kind of do a little of everything. Like, I don't know that there's really anything that's better than average, but he's got raw power. He hits enough. A lot better swing decisions this year. There is some in zone swing and miss. Cleaned up his receiving and blocking. I think it's an average receiver with a average to solid arm, maybe. Good leadership, good makeup. So like I like that pick. That was pretty good. I mean, Kamen Parker was a guy who was famous out of high school. They got in the 15th round at TCU. He's been okay, but like I don't think his career quite materialized like people hoped at TCU. So again, I mean, you're getting a guy in the 15th round who probably could have been an easy 3rd round pick out of high school at the time if he was signable. He had Tommy John, and he's come back from that. But he's kind of interesting. There might be something there. Those are probably the two. Cale Freeman had a nice year at Georgia State, but those are probably the two most interesting guys to me, round 11 through 20. Matthew Bowden, the guy they took in the 11th round, the high school kid, and signed him for basically $200,000. He's okay. Like they obviously spent most of their money up top, which is fine. Bowden is interesting because he's, I think, going to turn 20 in September. Yeah, for a high school kid. So he's interesting. He's got some, he can run. He's got a good arm. He's got some actions at shortstop, but he's not your typical projectable high school kid. Like that one was interesting. Like I had him on my radar, and when they took him, I was like, I didn't think that was necessarily going to be a huge signing. But then again, I mean, how many high school kids can you sign for $200,000? That doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, so Mike Shirley told us basically that they were talking to him in like the 5th or the 6th round. And there were like signability stuff, and then he basically decided in the 11th to take half of what so they must have been talking to him around $400,000 or $500,000, it sounds like, and then he just had a relationship with the area scout and was like, you know what, I want to turn pro. So
yeah,
which
I mean that's good scouting to know that you can get the guy. So
yeah, it's a weird turn of events there.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts overall on the White Sox young core? And are you surprised by the success that Colson Montgomery has had in his first couple of weeks here in the majors?
Yeah, it's funny when they called him up. I mean, I know he'd started to heat up at Charlotte. I almost wondered if part of it was, look, he struggled for a year and a half at Charlotte. Let's call him up and see if that jumpstarts him a little bit. So good for him. I mean, he is striking out, but like, I would say I'm surprised. Like, I mean, that talent's in there. I mean, I think we've talked about, like, the concern was he hadn't had a lot of success at AA or AAA, really. I think his first 2 homers came at Steinbrenner Field. So I was like, I don't know what to make of that, but like, he's kept it going. I mean, small sample size, I think it happens. So like, if he was hitting, 365 or 165, it wouldn't necessarily shock me, but like he's made, a lot of, hard contact since he's been up there. We'll see. Like he's still the one thing that would concern me a little bit is he's still chasing, he's still swinging and missing, and he's been pretty much all pull. So like, I don't necessarily think like he's made some adjustments and figured things out at the plate. I think he's hitting the ball hard and doing some damage, but I'll be curious to see, there's 2 more months. At some point, major league pitchers are going to adjust, and will he be able to adjust? But I mean, that's been a very, one of the more pleasant developments I think in the system this year is after the struggles he had early on and going on the development list and going to the complex league, that he's had a very good first month in the big leagues.
And he's using the torpedo bat now, Jim. So
I don't know what to make of that. Like, yeah,
I know, I don't know either. But
what they said was in Arizona, what they were trying to accomplish was to try and get him to hit things where they were pitched. Because if you watched him earlier when he was in Charlotte and he was having all the contact problems, it was that he was trying to basically pull everything regardless of where it was pitched. And so he was having problems with the, basically everything because he's chasing stuff and trying to pull stuff and pulling off of it. And so now he's saying that they're jamming him on the inside in the majors. So he tried switching over to the torpedo bat and immediately had success. So that's why he's sticking with it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, it seems like he's still like, I'm not trying to be the party, but like, still seems like he's aggressively swinging at pitches out of the strike zone and trying to pull everything. So I'll just be curious, but I mean, good for him. Like, I do think if he'd struggled, I don't know what the next step would have been. Like, not that like, oh, his career's over at age 23, but if he struggled in the big leagues like he did at Charlotte, what are you supposed to do with it?
I know.
Great question.
And the rest of the guys, it's, like Mydroth seems kind of as advertised, like how everybody kind of wrote about him. And then the thing with Caro and Teal, like I think I've been impressed by both of those guys, but I wish that Will Venable would find a way to play both of them together more often. They're not doing it a ton. Like he got burned once with a pinch hitter. They're both playing tonight, but it's been Caro pretty exclusively against lefties and then Teal kind of against righties, I believe. But Caro's destroying left-handed pitching.
No, I agree with you. Like, and the thing is, I mean, look, this team's developing. So, like, you could find somebody to knock off the roster. Like, this team's not winning anything. So you could find somebody to knock off the roster to bring Corey Lee or Matt. Like, you could carry 3 catchers on the roster so that you could DH one and play the other behind the plate. Like, and even if you get caught without a catcher, is that really going to cost you anything? Like,
no, they're going to win 55 games. So
yeah, so I'm
with
with you. Like, I would want those guys playing. Like, to me, the optimum deployment would be that maybe they both catch 3 times a week and DH 2 or 3 times. Like, they both need time behind the plate, and they both should be getting regular at bats in the big leagues.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, it's. I was gonna say it's been like. I think they have to be encouraged by the way the young guys have played because, like you said, like. Montgomery's off to a good start. Chase Mydroth, I mean, he is what he is. It's, he puts the bat on the ball. There's not much power. I think he still think he's more of a second baseman than a shortstop, but like, he's fine. He's a competent big leaguer, and Teal and Caro have hit pretty well when they've played. So I feel like all in all, they have to be pleased with the way those 4 guys have played.
Ian, when they traded for Blake Sable, Jim, like 10 days ago, and I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought they were just going to bring him up so he could just be on your bench, like in case something happened, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, and like again, even if you don't like again, how many times is your first catcher going to get hurt? Like even if you don't want Teal hitting against lefties or something in a crucial spot, so what? Get him some experience hitting lefties. But if somebody gets banged up and has to come out of the game and you lose the DH. Again, it doesn't matter. Like, so yeah, I'll admit I haven't been tracking the usage pattern, but it seems to me both those guys should be playing, like they should be splitting catching 50-50 and should be in the starting lineup 5 or 6 times a week.
Yeah, there's been all sorts of weird, like Colson Montgomery's played a lot of third, and if they ultimately think he's their third baseman, like that's fine, but it seems like they're doing it because they only trust Lenyn Sosa to play second. And then Mydroth has to play short. So it's just all these weird
why couldn't you
things
put Colson at short and put Mydroth at second? Which, yeah, I agree with you. Like
because they don't trust Sosa to play anywhere else. That's why.
Well, but you wouldn't have to play him then. That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
Like again, he's doing okay. But, I mean, do any of us think, no offense to Lenyn Sosa, that he's going to be playing a starting role on the next great White Sox team? I don't.
Yeah,
Probably not.
it's been interesting.
So it's been a tumultuous year for Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz. Are you worried about them at all?
I wouldn't. Worried might be strong. I'd say maybe mildly concerned about Schultz. I mean, the big thing for Schultz was, okay, like this year he's going to pitch more than 4 innings in a game, and he's had some minor physical stuff. He hasn't thrown strikes. I still am going to cut him slack, but he's only 21 years old. Like he's, and we're talking about a guy who pitched 4 innings as a high school senior. It's not like, I still think for a guy that big, he's way ahead of the game. Hagen Smith, I'm a little, I would say more worried about him. I mean, look, we knew he wasn't going to come in and pound the strike zone, but he's had trouble throwing fastball strikes. He's had trouble throwing slider strikes, to the point where, like, he hasn't even gotten that many. Like, slider was a huge huge chase pitch in college, and he's missed at times by so much that he's not getting a ton of chases. So, like, again, it's his first year in pro ball. You're adapting, but yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. Like, is Noah Schultz the best left-handed pitching prospect in baseball still? Maybe I could argue for Thomas White of the Marlins, or if you want to take one of the lefties who just came out of the draft. But like, Noah Schultz is still, he's in the discussion. He's right up there with him. Hagen Smith, to me, like, has moved down that list. Like in my own personal mind, because again, I was organizing guys as we start to do a top 100. I had Thomas White, number 1 lefty, Noah Schultz, number 2 lefty. I had Hagen Smith as number 7 lefty, and I have some scouts who probably think that's a little bit too generous. Like, I still think it hasn't been enough of a sample size to, maybe lower him further than that, at least in my mind. But the stuff isn't playing nearly as good as you'd hope.
What would you think about either or both of them going to the Arizona Fall League? So Schultz is at 68 innings pitched. The organization wanted him at like 110 or so, and I don't think he's going to be back for 3 weeks or so. So
I'd selfishly, I will endorse both of those. I mean,
me too. Yeah, agreed.
Again, and they both kind of fit the profile of, like, they missed time, but it's not a serious arm injury. There's no surgery involved. Like, they're actually advanced. You want to get them ready. That would be awesome. But I was going to say, like, with Hagen, it feels like, now granted, you're pitching every 5th day or every 6th day instead of every 7th day, and you're pitching more. But like, his velocity's been down on both his fastball and slider. He just hasn't looked like the same guy he's at Arkansas. And, with Noah, like I said, I mean, there have been more growing pains this year than there were the first 2. But the other thing to remember with AAA, and I know Noah has gotten lit up a couple times in AAA, the setup for pitchers in AAA is so stupid. Like, you get to AAA, you're a step away from the big leagues, and we're going to choose, like, you don't pitch with the major league ball before you get to AAA. So now all of a sudden you have a different ball you have to get accustomed to, that plays differently. And then you're dealing with ABS, which is a smaller strike zone. So it's like, okay, hey, you're on the verge of the big leagues. Now you have to learn to pitch with a different ball in a smaller strike zone. And sometimes it takes guys longer to adjust. And Noah's pitched 172 innings in his pro career before he got there. So I'm not with him. It's more, I think, like a speed bump. With Hagen, I'm kind of like, what's going on here? Like, I'm not horribly concerned, but curious as to what exactly is going on there.
So Caleb Bonemer has ascended into the top 100. You weren't a huge fan of the pick last year. What has he done to impress in his first full season, other than just actually seeing the stats?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 concerns you had on him, and I wasn't as high. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily. I shouldn't say necessarily. I wouldn't have taken him where the White Sox did and given him the bonus he got. So, like, which goes to show that I'm not right about all these things all the time. And again, people like players differently, so that's not like a jab at anybody. Just, like, if everybody agreed on players, then there wouldn't be any fun in that. But I think with Bonemer, like, there were times where he would look good, Like it was just inconsistent performance on the showcase circuit, even last spring a little bit. And he's been very consistent. Like he's making really good swing decisions. He's controlling the strike zone. He's not striking out too much. He's got, it's not like he has unbelievable numbers. He's hitting 260 with a 423 slug. I just popped up on my computer. You could see the power's there. It's going to continue to grow. I think the biggest surprise, and again, long term, he's not going to be the shortstop if Billy Carlson, hits, because Billy's, like the best defensive shortstop some guys have ever seen in high school. But he's been a lot better defensively. Like talking to people with other teams, they're surprised. We're not fitting Caleb Bonemer for Gold Glove at shortstop. But I talked to a lot of people who are like, that guy's definitely third baseman. And everybody's like, wow, he's like really good at short. Like he's a lot better than I thought. And I think that's probably been the even bigger surprise, because you saw offensive performances. You saw him play very well at certain events. It just wasn't throughout the summer on the showcase circuit or throughout the spring. But there were times you're like, yeah, that looks pretty good. But I think the defense has been the biggest surprise.
So, Jim, I was talking about you in our last podcast because you beat us to the punch here. So we really like Tanner McDougal. And we've been impressed with Christian Opper too. I think in our update, we usually wait until after the deadline. I think those guys are going to be back at the top 10, like White Sox system wide for us. You guys have already done it. What went into that decision with those two guys?
Yeah. So like, as if we didn't have enough to do in July, we decided, like, since I switched the draft to July in 21, it just sucked because we didn't have time to update our top 30 prospects list before the trade deadline, like we always used to in the past. Because essentially there's three of us doing that. It's Jonathan Mayo and Sam Dykstra, myself. And Jonathan and I are working full-time on the draft for the first half of July at least. And so this year we decided we didn't have time to do a full update before the trade deadline, but we were going to update the top 10s. And we were going to, so with the top 10s, we could do whatever we wanted. Then outside the top 10, you could move guys only if they were going to move up or down 10 spots. So if we were making a major move, you could do that, but we weren't just going to like, oh, let's take Sam Antonacci and move him from 26 to 22. It had to be a major move. And I don't think I even did any of those. But yeah, I think Apor and McDougal, we always knew they had stuff. Apor was a guy, I think we've talked about this. They tried to sign, they were going to take him in the 11th round out of high school. And the A's took him and then didn't meet his asking price. So he went to Chipola. I think it was Chipola, right? I know he went to Florida Junior College. I lost track. He went to junior college. They drafted him. I think it was 2 years ago in the 5th round. And he was very raw. And so they kind of worked him in slowly. He repeated the complex league. And this year, like, his stuff's gotten better, but also his strike throwing's gotten a lot better. And he's looked great. So, like, that was, like, just recognizing how good he looked. And the same thing with Tanner McDougal, who, they took, he was one of the stars of the first draft combine in 2021. They took him in the 5th round, paid him over slot money. And then following his, he broke into pro ball and they blew out almost immediately. So he had Tommy John, came back, missed all 22, came back in 23. And 23 and 24, he showed some of the best stuff in the system. He just never threw strikes or didn't throw a lot of strikes. And again, this year it clicked. I mean, both those guys are walking a guy every other inning. I mean, we're not talking Greg Maddux here. But, those guys have the quality stuff that if they're doing that, they're going to be successful because their stuff's really good. So the fact that those guys are both throwing strikes and having success, and honestly, outside the two famous lefties in Schultz and Smith are, I think, pretty clearly the best starting pitching prospects in the organization. It was a pretty easy decision to do.
Yeah, I think McDougal might see the majors just because he's Rule 5 eligible. Bannister kind of likes to put these guys in the bullpen at the end of the year if he can. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tanner McDougal.
Maybe because I guess he has to be protected on the 40-man after this year, right?
For Rule 5, yeah. I think that's the only reason why they might do it. Yeah,
they might. I mean, again, I'm not saying anything that other people haven't said isn't obvious. What happens in terms of results this year at the big league level matter not at all. It should all be about trying to develop guys. So if they think Tanner McDougal would benefit from getting 10 innings in September, they 100% should call him up.
Yeah, a guy that's a little bit further behind them that's, I think, kind of interesting is Matthias Lacombe. They got him in the same. So they took Jacob Gonzalez in the 1st round, which, seems like underwhelming right now. But they got Opper Wolko, and then Matthias Lacombe, like in that same draft. He's at Kannapolis now. I don't know how many innings he can throw or even, whether he'll start long term, but he's been pretty interesting so far.
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, he hadn't pitched before this year because he had lat issues, and it's I don't know, like they monitor. It's not just innings you pitch in game, but how many pitches you throw in bullpens and various things. And like I'm starting to hear more. It's not like a hard like he didn't pitch any last year, so he can only go 50 or whatever the number would be this year. That like this stuff, it's more quality, like how good the stuff looks, and anyway. So I don't know the innings either, but I don't think it's necessarily hard and fast. Like he's only going to pitch 50 and they're going to shut him down. But like no, I mean he was a guy they were really interested in. Another JUCO pick. He touches 97 with his fastball. His secondary pitches were pretty raw. Like he had the velocity when they took him out of Cochise Community College in Arizona, but he didn't have much in the way of secondary pitches. Like his slider's gotten a lot better. It's a sweeper. It's low 80s, and he's got like a mid 80s changeup that's got splitter action. And he's got the low arm slot and the release height, and it creates a lot of deception. He's throwing strikes, which he threw a lot of strikes in junior college too. So yeah, I think it's just about getting him finally on the mound, but the stuff looks like it's playing. It's 3-pitch mix, really really interesting. And he's a guy I don't have it all in my head yet, but like I was telling you, like when we update our lists, I couldn't move him up unless I moved him up 10 spots, and I wasn't necessarily preparing to do that. But like he's 27 right now on our list, and my guess is he'll probably be, I don't know, like 18 to 20 range, maybe higher. I mean, I have a bunch of draft guys to add, which will push guys down, but like he's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so last thing I have for you, and this will be like informative just for me when we do ours, because I'm struggling with some of these guys. Like, some of these pitchers who the White Sox have basically just decided are bullpen guys now, right? Like Peyton Pallette and Jairo Iriarte and Wickelman Gonzalez, like guys who have ranked in the teens pretty consistently because there was like the chance to start. Now, if they're definite relievers, just like what is your thought process like when you go to rank a top 30 and like including those guys, knowing that they might be like seventh inning guys essentially?
Yeah, it's tough because ideally, if you're a farm system, you wouldn't want any relievers on your top 30 unless it's like a late inning guy, because you'd rather have a bunch of guys you think are going to be starters. And it's tough. Like I generally try not to rank, like the stronger the system, the more I will try to avoid ranking relievers. I will get more lenient as they get closer to the big leagues and are maybe ready to help the big league club. So, and that, I mean, Pallette is in AAA, Iriarte and Gonzalez have all pitched in the majors. So, like, I'll probably rank them, but it's tough. Like essentially, and again, I haven't worked this out. Like it's tough because Lacombe has barely pitched above rookie ball, right? He's pitched 3 innings in A ball, but like he's got a chance to be a starter, but he's pitched 3 innings in A ball. So like, do I take him over a AAA reliever? Like, and all those guys have good stuff. That's tough. Like, would I take him over a Tyler Schweitzer who's hit the wall a little bit? I would, but like, what do you do with those guys versus the like I have the injured contingent of Blake Larson, Juan Corella, Kai Bush. Like, do you rank them ahead of those guys or behind them? It's tough. I still am wrestling with that too.
It's a tough one.
It is tough. Like, because I mean, some of those guys will probably earn saves for the White Sox at some point. Like, I do think Peyton Pallette could be like a closer on a rebuilding team, perhaps, if he throws enough strikes. But like I'm looking at our current list, and this will change, but like what do you do with Brian Ramos at this point? Like, I don't know. Like William Burgoyne is interesting, but like there's not really any power there. So like, what is William Burgoyne? So like they're all kind of in that mysterious. I don't know what to make of middle ground of the list, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I like the guys as players, but I just don't know on a top 30 like where some of these guys should fit in.
I think because they're less deep, they probably fit in the teens somewhere for the White Sox. Now, the other thing is, like, what if they make some trades and add some more guys to the system too? So we'll see.
That would be helpful. Yes. If I could bounce out like 26 through 30, that would be good. Yes.
Yeah, like we haven't added the draft guys yet, so I always enjoy being able, like, you look at the drafts, like Billy Carlson's going to be on there, Gene Fauske is going to be on there, Kyle Ledise is going to be on there, Landon Hodge is going to be on there. Gabe Davis is intriguing. I'll probably put him on there. Colby Shelton, maybe. Like Gabe Davis and Colby Shelton, it just depends on when I'm putting the list together. What to do. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have definitely 4 and maybe 6 draft guys on there, so that'll help too.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming and gracing us with your presence tonight. We appreciate your knowledge and all the all the hard work that you put in throughout the year. It's great to have you on. Do you want to let people know where they can find you and your work?
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that. All my stuff's at MLB Pipeline, which is part of MLB.com. One of the things I think that's really nice about our site is we do a lot of reports and video and stories, all that stuff. It's all free. I mean, obviously it's MLB.com. They want people to love baseball. So like all of our reports, all of it, none of it's behind a paywall. You can enjoy all that for free. And then I use my Twitter account, which is Jim Callis MLB. And I have a Blue Sky account, although I don't know that anybody really ever engages on Blue Sky. But I do both. I'm just Jim Callis on Blue Sky. And I will try to link to everything I write as well as other stuff we do at MLB Pipeline. So those are my 2 main areas. And I will be coming up on August 12th. You can watch potential White Sox of the future. I'll be broadcasting I don't even know what the official name. It's MLB's high school all-star game. I think it's the high school America game. Will be at Dodger Stadium August 12th. So I'll be broadcasting that. So looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of next year's draft, how psyched are you for that already, looking into the future here?
I haven't dove too much into it yet, just because we have not slowed down. We had the draft, then we had signings while we were retooling our top 10s, continuing to work on the top 30s. We have trades coming up. So I really haven't dove into it too much. I do know it's considered a better draft than this draft. I know on the high school side, and the good thing, the White Sox fans should be excited because there are no lottery restrictions, so they have a chance at the number 1 pick. I know on the high school side, the 2 names you hear the most are a couple of shortstops, Grady Emerson and Jacob Lombard, who's Georgia Lombard Jr., Yankee prospect, his younger brother. I know the college position player crop is supposed to be a lot better, led by Justin LeBron at Alabama.
Rock-Chalowski, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, Rock's another good one. So it's not great that the White Sox, the rules conspired against the White Sox. They couldn't pick higher than 10th, and they lost bonus pool money and restricted. They could have done more damage without those restrictions. But next year, they'll have more ammunition, and it will be a better draft. I haven't thought through, have we figured out who's going to be on the area code game roster that they're going to take in the second round?
I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, it's something that I'll definitely do in the lead up is looking at that roster to see who was on it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like I haven't looked enough to know who the top guy is, up here in this area that would be on their team. But we'll have plenty of time to figure that out because we know they got to be drafted. Is Oklahoma
usually?
Oh, yeah, so that Savion Sims kid is kind of interesting. Although they may be picking at the very top of the draft. We got to find a second rounder for him, an overslot second rounder. I'm not sure who that'll be. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll ask JJ Lally who he likes. So we'll see.
Isn't there a really good player on the north side? Like I think near me, like one of the Glenbrook North. Or
I believe.
Glenbrook.
Yeah, I believe. There's also Landon Tomey.
Yeah.
From Naz.
Well, we should just pencil. We know they're drafting him, right? I mean,
unless he goes to Tennessee, he might go to Tennessee.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I cannot think of the kid's name. Is it Bass? There's a kid up here somewhere near me, which again shows you how little I've
in the
looked at
northern
Clay Bush.
suburbs somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, not I think like 15 minutes away from me, who's supposed to be pretty good. So maybe they push. Hold on, I got to look this name up now. Or it's gonna drive me insane. So I got to log into my high school scouting service reports here. Hold on, got to find rankings. I can't figure this out. This is hold on, Illinois class of 26. Here we go. This is very exciting. I'm sure people watching me click on my. Yeah, it's Ethan Bass at Glenbrook North. He's the other one. So maybe Landon Tummy or Ethan Bass, we should just pencil in to the 2027 White Sox draft. I think
Entirely possible.
maybe both. Who knows?
Maybe both. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Jim. We appreciate you, and thanks for hopping on.
Oh no, anytime. I always enjoy it. You guys do great work, and I always enjoy talking baseball with you guys. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks.